Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again. Welcome back to Big Mike Talks, where today I'm going to talk to you about the rest of the week that was in pro wrestling, where I'm going to go over the results of two shows. That's MLW Fightland and AEW Full Gear. And then also do full reviews for Impact Wrestling, MLW kind of, but it was more recap show, SmackDown, and Rampage, in which I'll explain that in a little bit. So sit back, relax, and let's get into this one as we start with the results for MLW Fightland. First matchup, you got the Second Gear Crew, that's Matthew Justice and One Called Manders, defeating The Calling, Akira and Ricky Shane Page, for the MLW Tag Team titles. Congratulations to the new champs, and it does look like The Calling, at least Akira and Ricky Shane Page, are breaking up. So it does look like we're going to be getting something out of that. Some sort of story between these two. Next up, Matt Cardona beats Mance Warner in a loser leaves MLW match. So, Second Gear Crew's leader is now out, it does seem like. Although it also seems like Cardona got little help from the World Titan Federation's newest member, Alex Hammerstone, which that was a big surprise. Tag team action, we got Ichiban and Mascadora defeating Barbaro Cannavaro, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Rocky Romero with Selena De La Renta in their corner. And Fine Alamo, we got our main event for the MLW World title as Alex Kane made Jacob Fatu tap. So, still champion there. Gonna be interesting to see what MLW does forward. I know they have a special Thanksgiving episode coming up, which I'm pretty excited about. Now we go into Full Gear. An interesting event, so we'll get started with the pre-show. Eddie Kingston successfully defended his Ring of Honor title against Jay Lethal with Team TNA in his corner. And it's also been revealed that Eddie Kingston is going to be in the Continental Classic Tournament, with him defending both the Ring of Honor title and the Strong Openweight title in all of the matches he's going to be in. So that's going to be interesting. Claudio Castagnoli beat Buddy Matthews, which sounds like a hell of a bout. And MJF and his partner Samoa Joe beat the Guns via submission. However, the Guns did take out MJF's leg, and he was taken to a hospital, in which later on it was revealed that MJF wasn't cleared to wrestle. But then Adam Cole agreed to defend it, which, I don't know, maybe we're close to seeing that injury maybe not being a work, but we'll see. First matchup on the main Dynamite Full Gear card, we got Sting, Darby Allin, and Adam Copeland, the former Edge, along with Ric Flair in the corner, in which, screw Ric Flair, as they defeat, I'm not going to say this name, it's here as the Patriarchy, but I'm just going to call them Christian's Coalition, because that just makes sense to me, as it's Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne. I figured Copeland would be winning his first pay-per-view match, so Next matchup, we got Orange Cassidy defeating Jon Moxley to retain his international title. Timeless Toni Storm beat Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's title. That makes Toni Storm a 3-time Women's Champion along with Shida. Hopefully they do make a storyline out of this. We'll see what happens. Next up, we got a Fatal 4-Way ladder match for the AEW Tag Titles. As Ricky Starks and Big Bill beat LFI, that's Rush and Dralistico. FTR, Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood. And the Kings of the Black Throne, that's Malachi Black and Brody King of the House of Black. Ladder matches are usually the most fun thing in the world. And Fatal 4-Ways? Yeah, bring it on. Next up, triple threat match. Julia Hart dethrones Chris Statlander along with Sky Blue to gain the TBS title for the first time. Swerve Strickland beat Adam Page in a Texas death match, which I've seen some posts about it. Yeah, that was brutal. Especially Page drinking Swerve's blood. Like, ugh. Skeeves me out. Next up, the Golden Jets, that's Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega, beat the Young Bucks, that's Matt and Nick Jackson. And since the Golden Jets won, they get the Young Bucks tag team title opportunity, which they won at All Out. And finally, our main event. It was Adam Cole did come out. He was ready to go. But who grabbed an ambulance to come back? It's MJF. And he beats Switchblade Jay White to get the title, to retain the title, and physically get his title back, considering Jay White stole it like a month ago, which, honestly, I'm going to give this something interesting. While I didn't believe Jay White was going to win this, I think AEW did a pretty dang good job of making me believe that Jay White was built up a bit better. Alright, so those are those shows. We got Survivor Series coming this week. That should be a fun one. So now we go to our regularly scheduled programming, and we start off with Impact Wrestling. We start off with the tag titles on the line as Kenny King and Sheldon Jean take on the champs, the ABC, that's Ace Austin and Chris Bay. And this was, honestly, this was a pretty solid matchup between the two. ABC have definitely had some better matches, but this was, I liked how everyone was used, including Gene, who is really underrated. But eventually we get an Art of Finesse, a Fold, aka the 1-2 Sweet, for the victory for the ABC. And with that, it does look like Kenny King is out. This is going to be the last time we see Kenny King in Impact and TNA, as he has requested and gotten his release. So, thank you for your service, Kenny King. It was fun watching you. Hopefully you end up somewhere that appreciates you a little more. We then get a vignette from MK Ultra, the current Knockouts Tag Team titles. Pretty much saying, we control the women's division. You can throw any team you want at us, but we'll break them time after time. Pretty true. Next up, we got Moose taking on Heath in a... I wouldn't say bad match, but it was definitely more of a palate cleanser than anything else. Both guys definitely worked really well, especially with Brian Myers doing some interference. Near the end, Heath goes for the wake-up call. That gets powered out of. Right into a spear by Moose. So your winner, Moose. Post-match, Myers and Moose start the beatdown on Heath. Who comes out for the save? But it's Rhino. It's a gore on Myers. So, looks like Beauty and the Man-Beast are coming back together. And we'll see what happens from there. Next up, we got a 6-man Lucha Rules match. Basically what that means is, if you're the legal man, you don't have to tag out to be replaced in the match. You just gotta, roll under the ropes. So, participants, we got the full team of the Rascals. That's Zachary Wentz, Trey Miguel, and making his Impact debut, Myron Reed, the former MLW middleweight champ, as they take on Black Taurus, Laredo Kid, and the returning Juventud Guerrera, which it's very nice to see him. And I am just shocked Juvi can keep up with these guys. Dang. This was a really fast-paced lucha-style match. Again, like I said, tags are recognized, but you don't need to tag to get out of the match. And, this match was definitely very, very fast-paced. But I think everyone got enough in to look really, really good. And to my surprise, after a cutter, a spear, and a destination hellhole, which is a great name for a finisher, your winners, Black Taurus, Laredo Kid, and Juventud Guerrera. Definitely very surprised by that move, but yeah, let's see what the Rascals do in the near future. Next up, we got a mixed tag team action players as Steve Macklin and Kylan King take on Bully Ray and Jordan Grace. And this was another really, really fun matchup. And then we saw some intergender wrestling when we saw King and Bully Ray go at it. Didn't see Grace and Macklin go at it, in which I wouldn't mind seeing that. Not to say I approve of, that kind of thing, but, I think a match between those two would be fun. Kylan King with that awesome Vader bomb that only gets a 2 count. Jordan Grace with a Juggernaut driver to pick up the win for her and Bully Ray. Post-match, Bully Ray has Jordan Grace's Call Your Shot Gauntlet Cup. They kind of hold either end of it. They kind of will they, won't they? And Bully Ray lets it go. They have a second of a stare down. And then they embrace. So it does look like we're getting more of a babyface Bully Ray, which just kind of doesn't compute. But whatever. I'm interested to see this. Next matchup, non-title contest as Sonny Kiss making their Impact debut against Knockouts champion Trinity. And yes, I know, technically a man, blah, 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 whatever. I don't care. This match, I will say, was a bit slow to start, but considering Sonny Kiss hasn't wrestled on TV in a bit, I'm sure they're a little rusty. But once they got going, it was like, move, 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 move. They looked really good together. Like, Sonny Kiss really hasn't missed a beat. But ultimately, they succumb to the Bubba Bomb. I don't know what Trinity calls it, but that's what I'm going to call it. So your winner, Trinity. Hopefully Sonny Kiss does stick around in Impact for a little while. I think they would be a great asset to the company. Even if it's just for the digital media title. Speaking of titles, we get a promo from the Motor City Machine Guns, where Shelly pretty much says, Josh Alexander, at the last pay-per-view, you took me to my limit. But now, we got this tag match coming up with Zack Sabre Jr., and we're going to prove why we are the best tag team of the generation. So, that matchup should be a lot of fun for Final Resolution. And Finalamo, our main event of the evening. Match I didn't think I would get to see in my lifetime, but here we are. We get Will Ospreay, who actually at Full Gear signed on to AEW. Although he's not starting until the Road to Revolution, so that's going to be over the summer. So that's going to be interesting. As he takes on the walking weapon, Josh Alexander. And woo, boy, this match, I will tell you, this is a match of the year candidate, easily. And I'm going to say, there's not a ton of words I can say. Bloody Josh Alexander kicks out of a hidden blade. But then Will Ospreay near the end with a Stormbreaker, a hidden blade, to pick up the victory. And this match, obviously, big match, Big Mike seal of approval. That was a great bout. And I'm going to say, if you haven't seen it, go look out for it, because it's perfect. So now we go into MLW, and it was pretty much recaps from previous matches with Jacob Fatu and Alex Kane. Although matches they have had separately. I don't think they have ever had a match one-on-one. So like, first one was Never Say Never, where Tankman challenged Jacob Fatu for the openweight title. Then we get Fatu Fury Road, where Willie Mack challenges Alex Kane, which was a really good matchup too. Then we get our final recap of Slaughterhouse with Tom Lawlor versus Alex Kane, which underrated match. And then we get look at some interactions between Kane and Fatu leading to Fightland, which it's definitely interesting. Like I said, nothing really of context on this show, but building up for Fightland, which, you know, looked like a ton of fun. Alright, so that's Impact and Fusion done. We now go to SmackDown and Rampage. Now, the interesting thing about this is, due to Full Gear being on Saturday, Collision was changed to Friday and went head-to-head with SmackDown. And it was ugly. Like, it wasn't even close. Like, no offense to my fellow Collision fans, but the ratings were just way one-sided. Anyway, I chose to watch SmackDown because I haven't covered it in a while, so figured might as well. And we start with a full low Damage Control promo. So that's Bayley, Asuka, Io Sky, Kairi Sane, and Dakota Kai. 5 people in there. Dang, and honestly, it's a super stable. That's a great stable. Where Bayley pretty much saying, look, we didn't want to just share this huge moment with everyone, but here we are. But the plan was always to bring Asuka into the group, and calling Damage Control the strongest group in WWE. And when we were playing chess while y'all playing Candyland, which that hit me right in the feels. I love playing Candyland. It's a great game. But then Dakota Kai pretty much brings in translating for Kairi Sane, revealing that Asuka technically isn't part of Damage Control yet. So then Bayley pulls out of her pocket a Damage Control t-shirt, handing it to Asuka, and Asuka pretty much saying, yeah, puts on the shirt, and then Bayley pretty much says, alright, now that those games are over, let's get right down to business. For Survivor Series, we want y'all in War Games. So then, Shotzi's music plays. Her tank comes out, but she's not in it. She attacks Damage Control from behind, but the numbers eventually get to her. This brings out Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair, make the save. But then the numbers were way too much, so they got, kicked out of the ring. We then go to the babyfaces backstage with Bianca asking Shotzi, what was that? With Shotzi replying, look, I don't really have control over what I do. I just wanted to fight those women. Then Bianca's like, alright, if we're going to compete in War Games, we need a 4th person. Nick Aldis comes in, pretty much says, look, if you really want this matchup, I'm going to need your 4th member by the end of the night. In which, throughout the night, we see this group recruiting, which we'll get to. As we go to our first match, which is a triple threat tag match, where the winner gets a future shot at the tag team titles, more than likely post Survivor Series. You got the Brawling Brutes, that's Ridge Holland and Butch, taking on the Street Profits, Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, and Pretty Deadly. That's, I'm still trying to learn their names. It's, Elton Prince, and I don't really know the other dude's name. And honestly, this match was a lot of fun. Like a nice white hot opener with stakes. And this was definitely a really, really good matchup. Finish comes with Ridge Holland holding Montez Ford. Butch going for a big boot. Ford ducks out of the way. And Butch hits Ridge Holland in the face with the move. Street Profits hit the Revelation, which is their new tag finisher. Great name. The actual finish does need some work to pick up the win. So it looks like in the future they're taking on Judgment Day. And I will be surprised if it's just for the SmackDown tag team titles or both of them. We'll see. And then post-match, we see Bobby Lashley coming out to celebrate with the Profits. So, yeah, I guess we'll see. We then get Bianca Belair talking to Mia Yim backstage about War Games. Next minute, Damage Control is seen attacking Mia Yim backstage. We then get a surprising luchador matchup as Dragon Lee takes on the main roster debut of Axiom. Now, who is Axiom? He is a masked A-Kid, a relatively young wrestler from the UK, and he's not from the UK. I think he's from, Portugal. They recently put him in a mask, and I'm not super familiar with the Axiom character, but he brought it this week. Dragon Lee and Axiom they clicked. It was an awesome matchup. Some great lucha libre from both. But then after an Operation Dragon, your winner, Dragon Lee, with post-match, each man giving each other props. So, we'll see what happens with Axiom in the near future. Hopefully we see him somewhere on the main roster. Next up, we got a Santos Escobar promo, who pretty much says, well, something I gotta say, an expression that says, never meet your heroes. And with my family I've come from a long lineage of wrestlers in my family. But my hero has always been Rey Mysterio. And I've always wished that the next generation would see me as I saw Rey. Rey Mysterio became my father figure, and then after last week, I think Dom was proven right. Dom Mysterio, his son. And let's think about it. I deserve to be champion. Who took that championship opportunity away from me? It was Rey. I was here to rebuild the LW and lead the LWO. Who took that over? And that was Rey. He then takes his little shot at Carlito. Continues, Rey, we were supposed to be La Familia. And all this pain reminded me of how I felt when you betrayed me. And while I do owe someone an apology, how about you apologize to me? I'm just going to apologize for not doing more damage when I had the chance. I hope your surgery doesn't go well and you never come back. So Rey Mysterio is going to be out for a little while with knee injury. He just had the surgery, so speedy recovery for you, my man. Then out comes Zelina Vega. She gets in the ring. They kind of jaw a little bit off mic. And then all of a sudden, Zelina Vega with a big old slap to the face to Santos. Then Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro come out. They're kind of consoling Vega on the ramp. Then Escobar gets back on the microphone, pretty much says, oh, so you're going to side with her over me? That's crazy. We've been together for years. You need to be with me. Then Cruz and Wilde get in the ring. Pretty much say, Santos, you're out of line, man. And Santos Escobar then replies, alright, I didn't need any of you. Why don't you all get out of this ring? I'm cutting the dead weight now. So as Wilde and Cruz del Toro are leaving the ring, Santos Escobar attacks them. Who makes the save but Carlito, who makes Santos head for the hills. Definitely an interesting segment, a bit overly long, but I feel like, this is the eventual setup for something. Next up, we got Grayson Waller versus Cameron Grimes, which, if Waller wins, and it was a weird nothing match. I wish WWE had something a little bit more for Cameron Grimes, because he's absolutely fantastic. And as much as I like Grayson Waller, Grimes needs something else. So, again, backstage, we have Bianca Belair, and she's talking with Zelina Vega. Looks like talking about War Games again. But then again, Damage Control takes out Zelina Vega. We then get a promo from the Bloodline. That's Paul Heyman, Jimmy Uso, technically, and Solo Sikoa. And Paul announces an acknowledgement ceremony for Solo Sikoa. Then Heyman announces, we got via video screen John Cena. No pyro, no nothing. Is not here. And who do you have to thank to that? Solo. And let us hope that Cena never appears in WWE again. In which I think it might be, considering the actor's strike is now over. So it looks like Cena is going back to Hollywood. Paul Heyman continues, Cena doesn't have the heart to say goodbye to all of you. So I'm going to say goodbye for him. Goodbye, Cena. And then Paul Heyman back to serious mode. Now that you realize how serious this is, that was always his cue. He's never going to experience that again. And while people say no one stays gone forever, he will eventually target Solo. But at the end of the day, he's not really the John Cena you all know anymore. It would have been the greatest promo of his career. You cannot see Cena because he's not going to be here. Then out comes L.A. Knight. Yeah. Cut a little promo on his own. Out here talking about cause and effect. The only reason Roman is still champion is because of the bloodline. We all know that's the problem. Well, I'm here to be the problem solver. Kind of keeping his stock a little high. And it's not because I needed it to be that way. I made it that way. I will make sure the bloodline will cease to exist because I made it that way. And I'm starting with you, Jimmy. Because you got a first class ticket for a beating by me. And we're going to have this match tonight. We then get Charlotte, Shotzi, and Bianca backstage. With Bianca and Shotzi going to Charlotte, pretty much saying, alright, we got no more options here. Why don't you make that call? And then Charlotte's like, alright, let me take care of that. So we got a surprise member of Team Babyfaces. We'll see who it is. So we got our main event match as LA Knight takes on Jimmy Uso. And honestly, this was a pretty basic match. Like, it definitely had the bells and the whistles, but it wasn't a really good, technically sound match. Like, it was serviceable, it was exciting. But ultimately, after a super kick tried by Jimmy, which gets caught by LA Knight, who hits a BFT to pick up the win. Post-match, Solo Sikoa comes out, has a little stare down with Knight, and then Jimmy jumps Knight from behind, slides him out to Solo, who hits a Samoan spike to LA Knight. Bloodline setting up the announce table to put Knight through it. Out comes, surprise of the night, Cody Rhodes, who is usually a Raw guy, but I guess he takes time to come to SmackDown. Cody and Knight then fight off the Bloodline, and they all stand tall in the ring. We then go to our last segment backstage. It's Bianca, Shotzi, and Charlotte. Charlotte revealed, yeah, I called her, but I don't know if she's going to be here in time. And Bianca's like, alright, we got to go out there anyway. Let's do this. We get the babyface team out, with Bianca saying, look, we can stand here all night, but we're running out of time so we accept the War Games challenge. And I know the one person I want on this team. Before the name could be announced, out comes Damage Control, with Bayley taunting the babyfaces, pretty much like, we took down everyone. You're just a loser. You guys aren't making it to War Games. And as Damage Control is slowly getting into the ring, who slides out the back but the man herself, Becky Lynch. And they just start brawling, including a pair of moonsaults from Io Sky and Charlotte to the outside, which was crazy. Definitely a nutty way to finish up the show. SmackDown was alright this week. I'm glad I gave it a watch. No offense to Collision, but I think SmackDown's the hotter show right now. And final note, we got the last show of the week. It is AEW Rampage. We start out with Chris Jericho on commentary, which is an all-night thing, which I didn't see that announced for Dynamite, but whatever. So our first matchup is the TNT title on the line, as Trent Beretta, who won a 3-way match on Collision, challenges Christian Cage. And honestly, this was a pretty banger match. Both guys got a lot of good stuff in. One point, Trent blocks an Unprettier. But ultimately, Christian gets the advantage back thanks to Luchasaurus distraction. Christian Cage with the killer switch to win and retain. Next up, we got the warm-up match for Timeless Toni Storm for Full Gear against Emi Sakura. It has been way too long since we've seen Emi Sakura on AEW. Before the match starts, Luther, who is now playing the butler of Timeless Toni Storm, gives Toni a script, which is kind of a fourth wall break I always like. Toni kind of flips through it, turns to Emi, who knocks the papers out of her hand, which that starts the match. Emi starts out white hot, including a crossbody into the steel ring steps. But then eventually Toni Storm gets back into it. It's a gigantic hip attack and a Storm Zero to pick up the victory. Nothing really to complain about. I do wish this match went a little bit longer. Next up, we got an interview with J&J. That's Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and their whole crew. And Eddie Kingston, with Jay Lethal proclaiming, I asked for this time. Eddie, you got one more day left as champ, as I'm challenging you for 0 hour for Full Gear. And Eddie, I know you better than anyone. You've been ducking me. You've been running and hiding. And then Eddie kind of puts his hand on the microphone, brings it to his own mouth, pretty much says, "You know me, and I know that you're just speaking like them. Look into my eyes, Jay. You're becoming a coward like them, and you're not going to win this title." So J&J walk off. Eddie Kingston then turns around into Santana, which is very interesting. And they both kind of just nod at one another. Next up, we got Roderick Strong taking on Action Andretti. I do kind of wish they did a little bit more with Action Andretti, because he is super good. Pre-match, Roderick Strong attacks Andretti before the bell. Bell then rings, and they just... like Roderick Strong with a couple of really deep backbreakers. Action Andretti flying around for a little bit. But eventually, actually near the end, Andretti hits a Spanish fly. But then that brings in Doc Samson to check on Roddy. Matchup then continues. Then roll up, only a 2 count. Big old knee strike into a backbreaker for the victory for Roderick Strong. We then get a little sit-down interview with challenger to the AEW Championship, Jay White. Pretty much saying, you know, the AEW title right now is with someone who is elite. And the Golden Guns are going to take MJF down for the tag titles. And one person to kick off MJF losing his titles, losing everything he had. And MJF, do not mention yourself in the same sentence as me. And when things go my way, you're going to see more and more Bullet Club Gold on your TV. We're going to run wild on AEW and prove why Jay White is better than MJF. And before he can finish, MJF jumps him from behind. They brawl in the back a little bit. Juice Robinson, when they were in a hallway, kind of gets MJF into a doorway, into another room. They brawl. Jay White walks in. MJF is holding a television over Jay White. Looks like he's going to hit him with it. Sees Jay White, throws the TV at him, which is just crazy. They then run into the arena with MJF fighting to get his title back. He eventually does get his hands on it, but then the Guns attack him from behind. Jay White joins in. He goes for the belt shot, but Samoa Joe, out of nowhere, make the save and run off Bullet Club Gold. So the Joe then turns to MJF, extends his hand, and they shake on it, with Joe bringing MJF in a little close. So, yeah, definitely going to be an interesting run for AEW from now until World's End, which is the next pay-per-view, which is a new one, and it's coming to my neck of the woods, which, that should be a fun one. Alright, that is it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Coming up on the channel, Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a little bit of a wrestling break this week due to the holiday. So, no reviews for that later. I think the following week I'll do I'll review the rest of the week in wrestling. I'll mention what happened at Survivor Series. And then maybe I'll move on to something else, because I haven't done something on the MCU in a while. I just need to get some ideas. So, that is it from me. And until next time, happy wrestling, everybody. Peace.